It's on.
Is it on? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Todd Sievert. I'm chairman of the Finance Committee. To my right is Mr. William Rozelle. To my left is Mr. Bobby Phillips. We are here today to talk about amending provisions for the deposit of revenues related to parking fines. I do have some questions, but I'll turn it over to Mr. Titterington first for a brief.
Thank you, Mr.
discussion.
Chair. I hear the word brief. In the 2022 budget discussion in November, I pointed out that with the removal of the meters, we no longer have an income stream that is going into Fund 712, which finances the parking control operations. 100% of the money has been going into Fund 231, which is the capital improvements to the parking in downtown area. We are and so I indicated at that time that we needed to adjust that as part of the budget approval. So this is a house cleaning to do that. We are recommending that 75% of the revenues that are collected go to Fund 712 to offset a portion of the parking control operations. It is a subsidized operation, subsidized by the general fund, and then 25% go into Fund 231. This is a similar arrangement that we have in the cemetery operations, where I believe it's 75% goes into the cemetery operating fund, and then the other 25% goes into the trust fund. We are recommending emergency legislation so we can clean it up.
Thank you. Mr. Rozelle has indicated he would, Ms. Knight, do you have a
She's
clarification?
mentioning retroactively to January 1st, but that's just an accounting adjustment that we make.
Mr. Rozelle indicated he had some questions.
Just bear with me patience-wise, because what you're saying, and then maybe for the new people, the only thing that's coming out of 721 expenses is the meter guy?
712.
712, that includes the, yes, that's the employee wages and benefits and some miscellaneous operating costs, but no capital or anything like that.
Okay, and the other one's a capital project fund, right? 231, is that capital project fund?
That's where we would be able to make.
And there's no line item in there for any pay, right?
Correct.
Legally, okay.
Correct.
Not to irritate our parking meter guy, is he cost effective, or is he deemed necessary, or, I mean?
Okay, well, let me just get it out here, because you guys can do whatever you want to do.
Well,
All right, and I'm not being
saying one way or the
defensive,
other, I'm just
because
asking.
we revisit this issue about every 5 years as part of the overall parking discussion. The parking control officer has been in place for
Forever.
how many years? For a long time. I don't believe that he or she has ever been 100% self-sufficient. To do that, we would either have high meter fees, or we would be very aggressive on fines, both of which are counterproductive to being welcoming to visitors. However, I know the police chief would agree that it is a necessary operation for the simple fact that there are, in addition to maybe those folks who park too long, are parking otherwise illegally, such as not within the lines and in between two lines, or with an extended vehicle that is parked out to the right of way, to the roadway. If the parking control officer position was eliminated, you would not have any enforcement other than to pay a police officer to do that job. Probably on an on-call 911 basis. And so the timing would not be that good, and it wouldn't be that consistent, because these same officers would be out servicing calls in the community. So while it is subsidized, it is more cost-effective than the alternative. The third alternative is to just not do any kind of enforcement, and we have found historically that while that may work in the very, very short term, over time, we do see quite a bit of complaints from downtown property owners, particularly retailers and other businesses who don't really like that arrangement or wouldn't like that arrangement. And I say that because there have been times when we'd been in between employees, and so with the vacancy, there had been no enforcement, and we did hear about it.
Plus it's visual, a visual deterrent.
We also gave parking away 2 years ago over the holiday season without much criticism. We also, what are his hours?
Okay, so that was a very short time moratorium that was in place, and as I just said, in the short run, we may not hear many complaints, but over time, without some kind of enforcement, we do hear about it. Because in the past, when we've had vacancies in that position, they have run for longer periods of time than that parking moratorium that we did 2 years ago.
Has Troy Main Street shared their most recent updated survey with council or with the city?
They have, yes.
Okay.
Not with council.
With the council. I'll have to double check. I thought that we had put it in the items of interest once, but if not, we can certainly resend it to you if we haven't already. Well, even if we have.
What is the, if one of the things, as was discussed ad nauseum at the meeting before, is us to look at doing something different with maintenance, acquisition of parking facilities, et cetera, why would we take money from that fund and put it into this fund where we're already subsidizing this fund already?
Could you rephrase that for
Yeah.
my?
Okay.
I'm trying to wrap my mind
Fund
around it.
231 is for the improvement, maintenance, and acquisition of parking facilities, correct?
Correct.
And there was ample discussion earlier in the prior meeting by Mr. Schilling regarding probabilities, possibilities of those types of activities occurring. So why is the timing now necessary to change this fund where we're already subsidizing the parking control officer? We've been subsidizing the parking control officer, and $15,000 to the good of the less subsidizing, where that money could be held for the possibility of acquisition or maintenance of parking facilities, may be a better use of those funds.
I guess in short, the Fund 231 is a capital fund that we would use every so often. Not only could it be used for a parking structure, and as part of that very comprehensive discussion that we had earlier, I made sure to let people know that, the first step would be to do another analysis, complete with a financial pro forma and an impact statement, so that people understood that by that time, it's probably about a $7 million project at least, if not bigger if we go higher, plus 10 to 15 to 20%, depending on how we do the ongoing maintenance and what kind of equipment we have in there. Frankly, the 231 is not going to be a source, even if 100% goes into that, of making a dent at all in a parking structure. Other things that we've done in the past and can do is made, we do have in the 5-year capital plan the rehabilitation renovations to the streetscapes. which could involve redesign of the curbs, especially around the crosswalks, as well as perhaps some kind of a median changes as you get into the crosswalks. So there are a variety of reasons, and for why we would not want to put 100% in there when every year we have a parking control officer, and to lessen the impact on the general fund every year is why we would redistribute some of those funds. Otherwise, the general fund subsidy is that much higher, which was virtually guaranteed when the council went away from, or reduced the amount of limited time parking and eliminated the meter parking in South Cherry Street lot.
Well, we eliminated it at the rec, we added
And the rec as
we
well,
added
yeah.
the police station, the police station is a free lot now.
It's free, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
so.
You eliminated metered parking. Yeah.
Correct, at Cherry Street, so we now have these free lots that are going to require maintenance, and they're not generating any revenue. I guess I don't understand the logic. We've operated with this subsidy for the parking control officer for years. It's $15,000. It's not going to make a difference one way really or the other. So why wouldn't we keep it in the maintenance for the free lots now that we have to maintain? You have Cherry Street, you have the rec, you have the police station, you have the one behind the old J.C. Penney's. I'm going to date myself. I don't know what that building's called, or that lot's called. But we've added, when we did this comprehensive parking plan, we added all these free, for lack of a better term, lots in hopes that it would, encourage people coming downtown. And I do think they're being used. The one, I know the police station, because I go to Cage on a daily basis and it's full. So why, I guess, look, I'm not going to argue it. You brought it up at the budget meeting, but it doesn't make any sense. So
our rationale is that, generally accepted accounting principles is that you try to match sources and uses as much as you possibly can, and thereby minimizing the subsidies that you know of. We have an immediate subsidy every year that we budget for. The source of the revenues are directly generated from and due to the activities of the parking control officer now, as opposed to any parking meters, meter money.
I guess say it more succinctly, did the maintenance cost of 231 go up once we added additional lots that aren't generating revenue?
No, but we have not budgeted any kind of maintenance on those lots. They're in good shape.
Mr. Phillips, any questions?
At my own danger of asking why you're asking that question, because we're going to pay the same amount of money for the officer, for the maintenance, for the others, and I can see, as Mr. Titterington's indicating, under GAAP, you're using this as an accounting process. So it's either all going to come out of general fund, or you're going to break it down into other accounts and have money in them sitting that will come from general fund, so that you have a good accounting system with a good track. That's really all we're doing.
No, I understand that. I just don't understand why it was good for the last 20 years and now we're going to change it.
No.
Because it was, prior to council making the adjustments to the parking situation downtown 2 years
For the
ago,
last 3.
2 or 3 years, there were two sources of income or revenues. One was the parking meter revenue, the other was fines. Now you just have the fine money. And so there's nothing, there weren't one pot going one place and one pot going to another, it's just one pot.
And so all you're requesting is a transfer to alleviate the minuscule amount hitting the general fund because it can come from this other fund, correct?
I wouldn't say minuscule,
Well,
but
well, I mean,
it's,
in the general fund overall, 15 grand is not
It is an amount that
much.
has gone up.
Yeah,
as a result of the parking changes. And so this would help mitigate that a little bit.
And I don't think that's been, I know it's in your report, but we're talking about $15,000 approximately.
That was the estimate that the city auditor put into this budget. Compared to last year and what was actually collected, it was closer to 25,000, but we want to be conservative.
And the reason for retro is just to get it all over there now?
Okay. Mr. Phillips?
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Sorry. Any other council members have any other questions? Seeing no one? Mayor, any questions? Anybody from staff have any questions? Young Mr. Pierce in the audience, do you have any questions?
He's awake.
Are you awake?
Do you want a parking garage?
Mr. Phillips?
Then I'm okay with proceeding as staff is recommending and with emergency.
Concur.
Mr. Rizal? I concur. That's the close of this meeting.